Welcome folks, this is Wear and Tear, yet another YouTube author and gear review channel. Today I want to show you an extraordinary knife. The Spyderco or Byrd Cara Cara 2 rescue knife. In beautiful orange, it has the design of some kind of prehistoric bird. So it's a real beauty in my eyes at least, something very organic. Now, if you don't like serrations, you won't be happy with this knife, because this knife is exclusively based on serrations, very well made serrations. But if you don't like serrations, I'll show you its cutting power. And I will compare it to a standard knife, the CVV Praxis 2. The Praxis 2 is a very sharp knife. It is a very, very potent cutter. But it's a standard all-round knife that you could EDC. It has a 440 steel, just like this has a 440 steel, or HCR 13 MOV steel, as they call it. Now, just a quick notice, this is not a Spyderco knife per se. It is made by Spyderco, but it's one of the China-made Spydercos, so that's why it's called a Byrd. So the design and engineering, quality control and everything, I guess, is done by Spyderco, but this one is not manufactured in Japan, but in China. That's why they're way cheaper than the ordinary Spydercos, but they still offer a very good performance. Those are still quality or budget quality knives. Now, to the cutting performance. Since this is a rescue knife, let's start out with some nylon webbing. So some nylon webbing. First we do it with the very sharp CVV Praxis. And just look at how much strength I need to use. So the CVV Praxis goes through at once, just as you would expect from a good sharp knife. So clean, decent cut. Some dirt on the table now, that's fine. That was to be expected. Now the Cara Cara 2. And done. And done. And yet another time. So no problem. Again, compared with the CVV Praxis. Yeah. You can clearly see the serrations offer a huge advantage if you have to cut nylon webbing, which is rather hard to cut, which would be used in seat belts. So similar materials are used in seat belts. Let's do some paper cutting. Now the CVV Praxis is super sharp, so that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, this is a sharp knife, definitely. But now look at the Cara Cara 2. Completely without effort, you can do super fine slices. Yeah, this is basically what you would expect from good serrations. So this is of course a pure dedicated cutting tool, and this is a very capable all-round knife. And as a pure dedicated cutter, it has a rescue cutter on top of it. It has a sheepfoot blade, so the sheepfoot. So you would, like, if you have to cut close, like this is the patient and there are clothes on top, you would go underneath it and then you would cut the clothes open. I sometimes need to do that in my line of work. And of course with a knife like this, you could also do it, but you have way less cutting power because you lack the serrations, and of course it's more dangerous to stab the patient, especially if it's a stressful situation, the patient is suddenly moving, whatnot. You definitely want this slender type of blade that has less risk of injuring the patient. Now let's do some clothing as well. Let's see, some regular cotton type of clothing. Let's cut it open with the CVV Praxis. It goes through fairly easily. Let's see what the sheep foot does. It just goes through like 50% easier at least. So, and it just is more stable, that the cut is more stabilized. It might look jagged, but it is, all in all, is very stabilized, because that's what serrations do for you. They guide your cut. Okay, first of all, serrations, they protect the blade. So in between, the cutting surface is protected by those serrations. So those little hills, those little teeth. Okay, and the cutting surface is in between those little teeth. Now, a curve is a more stable form than just a straight line. Okay, and those little teeth, they protect the cutting surface in between. Then the cutting surface is also guided by the valley, basically. So when you cut, you're kind of guided by this little valley, the serration. And although it's standard steel, like 440 steel, I don't expect it to be resharpened very often, because that sucker will just stay sharp for a very, very long time, whether I do box cutting or anything else, because that's just what serrations do for you. Of course, disadvantage is, if it then one day gets dull, it will be very hard to bring it back to factory standard, at least with the sharpening tools that I have. But then, on the other hand, this is a 35 euro knife, and even if it doesn't perform at peak performance anymore, you can still use it for other purposes, and then just buy yourself a new one. Again, $38 or euros. This is a knife that you can replace, and yet it has awesome cutting power. Now, it is a backlock. The backlock is in the middle. You can spider flick it. You can if you have the skills. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, just open it like this. You can also slowly and safely open it. This is very comfortable. And I like it a lot. The quality is excellent. There is no blade play. The blade is absolutely centered. Now, compared to my Spyderco Enduro 4 that is in the States right now, the handle offers very similar ergonomics. The ergonomics are not worse in any substantial way. Just the Enduro 4 has a different material that feels a little bit more classy, and it has less edges. It's more rounded off. But for a rescue knife, for use a knife, that doesn't matter so much. It's not such a pretty knife like a full price Spyderco, but it offers the same functionality, the same quality. The backlock is absolutely safe. They didn't cut any corners when it comes to safety or anything like that. So this is a perfectly safe and very reasonably priced rescue knife. If you work as in the medical field, or if you just want something like a potent seatbelt cutter in your car, an emergency knife, this is definitely something to look into. They also have this in black, but for rescue and emergency knife, orange is very appropriate. I like the orange color a lot. So this was Wear and Tear, over and out. Like that little birdie?